Today I talked to Michelle Jewsbury, and you guys, she's amazing. She's the founder and CEO of Unsilenced Voices, and she works in Ghana, Sierra Leone, and in the United States. She works all over the world helping empower survivors of pain and trauma. She's also an internationally recognized speaker, coach, and advocate. We had a great conversation about her time with an abuser. She gave us some red flags when the abuse started, and really what she's done since then. She's completely changed her life, and she's also changing other people's lives as well. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this conversation. And if at the end you want to work with her, check out the show notes because it'll have her website, because she helps you tell your story, either on stages or in books, things like that. So she's really great about all that. So connect with her if you feel like it would be helpful for you. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Michelle, and Michelle is a dynamic force in transforming personal stories into powerful narratives. And she's the founder and CEO of Unsilenced Voices, with a mission to empower survivors of pain and trauma. So, Michelle, I am so excited to talk about all of that. Welcome.
Yay. Thank you so much, Laura. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun chit-chatting with your audience.
Yes. So, my whole goal is, well, it didn't used to be the narcissist show, but it is now. And so it just happened. Well, a lot of people, once I started talking about it, a lot of people came out of the woodwork and wanted to talk about it.
What
And
happened?
I think we need to tell our story, to get through the healing and know that we're not alone. So that's always my mission. And also to give people some hope, on their walk and their healing journey. So tell me how you got into doing what you're doing, and tell me about Unsilenced Voices.
Yeah, it's a long journey. So strap in your boots right now, and then we'll go
That's
ahead
right. That's
and
right.
chit chat. So, a little bit about me. I grew up in a small town in North Idaho. My daddy was military, moved around my whole life. Decided after I graduated high school that I wanted to be an actress. So, I packed my bags and I drove from North Idaho all the way down to Hollywood, California,
Wow.
and started starring in plays and films and doing all the fun stuff. I thought I was on my way to stardom. I was a little naive, but it was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
While I was there, I ended up meeting somebody who I thought was my Prince Charming. Unfortunately, this somebody turned out to be a very, very violent monster.
Mhm.
And the first time I experienced physical violence from him was only 4 months into our relationship. And I had stayed for well over 4 years. And I'm sure we'll get
Yeah.
into all of that.
Yeah, and I actually, before you go on, I do kind of want to talk about that. If you want to talk about it later, you can, but like, so, the Prince Charming thing is it's very typical,
Yeah.
that's why I named my book Married to a Nice Guy. He was so nice and all that stuff. And sometimes women find out on their honeymoon that they're a different person, all the things they turn into the monster on their honeymoon. So what did you see before you saw the physical violence in 4 months in?
Lots of controlling. So I call my abuser, his name is Paul.
Okay.
Um, So there was not just the control, but it was the manipulation,
Yeah.
the Jekyll and Hyde, the making me believe that I remember things differently,
Yeah.
gaslighting me.
Yeah.
However, in the very beginning, it was kind of sweet and
Yeah.
cute in the
Yeah.
beginning. You
Yeah.
know, he's like, "Oh, I want to carry all the credit cards. You don't need to carry a purse." He wanted to order my drinks and my food whenever we went out. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is kind of cute, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to move the relationship too quickly. So he wanted me to move in with him
Hmm.
like 3 months, 4 months into our relationship, which is really, really fast. I'm
Yeah.
in a relationship now for 6 months and moving in with him right now. I'm like, I don't know about that,
Right.
maybe.
Well, and I
Um,
think people need to hear that because, I talk about this all the time. Like, we've been societalized with the fairy tales, and it's a
yeah.
whirlwind and Disney and all that. And I'm like, oh, I love Disney, but geez, Disney. We're so, like, every princess is gaslit and everything. But the moving too fast, that's what I tell people. I'm like, slow down. You got to
Yeah.
slow down so that you can see what's going
Process.
on.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not always like this though. So
yeah,
I'm in a very loving relationship
that's
right now. I
awesome.
finally have I'm aging myself, and this could be even older now. You could be watching this 3 years after it airs. But
Right.
at the time of this recording, I'm 42 years old. I've never been married. I don't have children. And I
Uh-huh.
just finally found my Prince Charming, my
Well,
actual amazing man. So,
yeah.
those of you who are listening out there who've
Yeah.
been through different relationships, who have had horrible marriages or
Mhm.
narcissistic abusers in your life, there is hope. There is definitely a positive from this. However, it's a lot of learning that you have to do and a lot of
Yeah.
unlearning.
I was just about to say an
Mhm.
unlearning that we have to do of all the things that we've been taught, and those things that you were saying at the beginning of your relationship. Yeah, it's all controlling, but at the time it sounds like, oh, he's so sweet. He's taking care of me. And then
Mhm.
it becomes sort of isolating because you don't need to carry the credit cards. You don't need to do those things.
Yeah.
And now you're financially dependent or you don't have access to anything. So now it's isolating. It's okay. So tell me more about this story. What happened?
um,
So did something happen in particular? Well, I would guess yes. But 4 months in, all of a sudden something happens. And was
Yeah,
there,
well, 4 months in, he pushed me so hard against the wall that my head went through it.
oh
And I
my
didn't
gosh.
realize that this was the beginning stages of domestic violence. I never grew up with DV at all.
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was facing. So I remember he pushed me and I stepped forward and I looked behind me at the hole in the wall. And
Yeah.
I was like, I need to patch this. I didn't think I need to run away. I didn't think I was in danger. I
Yeah.
was like, I need to patch this. Um, so I did. And I ended up staying with him. And I'm sure we'll get into more of this.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when I finally escaped the situation, I just started documenting my story. And in that
Mhm.
documentation, my play came out. So I wrote and performed a 65-minute solo
Oh,
play called But I Love Him about my experience.
I love that.
And then that translated directly into my book, my memoir, which is But I Love Him, which I published in 2019. But prior to that, right when I was doing the play, people started coming up to me and telling me their stories. And that's when I looked up at God and I was like, oh, this is way bigger than me. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And 2017, I founded Unsilenced Voices. I sued my abuser, and a large portion of the settlement I used to start the nonprofit,
Wow.
which is very serendipitous. And
Yeah.
the bulk of our programming is in Sierra Leone, West Africa. We've done work in Ghana, Rwanda, and the US as well. So we're expanding. If you're watching this years from now, hopefully we're in multiple other countries, but we
Wow.
definitely need help. We will always need help. Yeah,
That's amazing. You
yeah.
sued your you sued your abuser? How did
I
that go?
did. Yeah,
And
I
what did
sued
what
my
did you end up
abuser.
suing him for?
So unfortunately, my statute of limitations ran out
Okay.
for the physical violence. So when I left him finally, after 7 times of leaving him,
Yeah.
he had left me financially strapped and he ruined my credit. He had all of our credit cards maxed out,
Mhm.
and I was driving a car that I could not afford. So we found a clause that allowed me to sue him civilly. So I
Wow.
sued him for the pain and trauma that he made me endure,
Mhm.
the financial repercussions, all of it. Now, if you Google it, we got pennies on the dollar. And
Okay.
legally speaking, I can't talk about the actual
Yeah.
settlement
Yeah.
agreement, but we got pennies on the dollar. What I did get from this is my voice back.
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
got my voice back after 4 years of a damn lawsuit, it made me feel empowered that I could accomplish all of this. Which then, after writing my first book, I started speaking and coaching and traveling, and now I get to help people tell their stories,
Yeah.
and I have an entire business on helping other people, which is awesome.
That's
Absolutely
amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's how I felt, like, after this, I was like, "No, I've never had a voice, like, my entire life, and I had to talk about it, and so many people told me not to talk about it, which doesn't help anybody except the
No.
abuser.
Yeah.
And I couldn't not talk about it. Like, there was no way. I had to say it because when I started talking about it, I had people like that saying, "My first marriage was abusive. Did you know that?" Well, no,
Mm.
because we don't talk about
Because
it.
we don't talk about it.
Yeah, and so I felt really alone. I felt ashamed. Of course, that's a core, feeling that you get when you leave abuse. You feel ashamed because of the way they've broken you down. And I was like, why am I ashamed? I didn't understand that. I had to unpack all of that. took a lot of work. I'm still working on it. There's
Mhm.
still things that come up. I spent 33 years with him, of course. So it's a lot of stuff still comes up and I'm still thinking about things and unraveling things. And but the
Yeah, I
one
mean,
thing,
we still get triggered for sure. There's
oh, for sure.
so many times.
I got triggered for something over the summer and I was like, I can't believe I got triggered for this. And my coach was like, well, yeah, of course. Of course it's going
Yeah.
to trigger you. It's like and it's okay
Hmm.
because we're human and we spent a long time with these people and all that. And you said you tried to leave 7 times, and that's very,
Yeah.
very common, and
Hmm.
that's the average number that women, try to leave. I did that as well, saying every month to my therapist, I'm going to leave this month. I'm going to leave this month. I have a friend who said I can stay with her. I'm going to leave this month. And I never did until the last time. And then I left. But yeah, I did that for months and months. Just like I just couldn't do it. I was stuck in freeze. I was so scared to make a decision. And what if he got mad at me?
Yeah.
Of course, I was holding on to hope, living off of his breadcrumbs and holding on to hope, though there weren't very many breadcrumbs at the end. I was in full discard. So I couldn't live off of those anymore. So tell me about, so you stayed 4 more years after the abuse started happening. Well, where you could see it, because before it was still abusive, but
Yeah, it was just emotional manipulation for
yeah.
sure. Uh-huh.
And what gave
But
you the
yeah.
strength? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that and what gave you the strength to leave.
Yeah, it's interesting. Police were involved multiple times in our short relationship. And I say short because I know people like yourself who have
Mhm.
been married to narcissists and abusers for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
But we had extreme violence and brutality. Like he had thrown my head, slammed it against a cement bench in front of people. Police
Mhm.
got involved. There was all
Wow.
kinds of things that happened then. Um, so I worked with him. I
Oh.
literally didn't want to turn him in back
Mhm.
then because that's where my mindset was. And this
Yeah.
is something that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And so we went to therapy and we tried to work things out. And, he went 1 full year without physically harming me,
Oh.
which was something huge. And then I
Mhm.
found out that he was having affairs on me.
Oh,
And
okay.
once I found out about the affairs, it was just this like, I allowed myself to stay in this relationship where I was physically assaulted, sexually assaulted,
Mhm.
emotionally manipulated,
Mhm.
financially abused, and now you cheat on me? So subconsciously I was like, what the heck? I can't do this. And I literally I swallowed a bottle for the next couple weeks. Like
Uh-huh.
every night I was just drinking myself
Yeah.
into my bottle. And finally it's he looked at me and said, you need to go to LA and put yourself back together. And then we'll get back together. And then when I went back to LA, that's when I started to document my story. And
Mhm.
when I read it back to myself, I was like, oh, how is this me? My mama raised me to be a strong, independent woman. How am I reading about myself in this horrible story?
Yeah.
And in that's when I was like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And he ended up assaulting another woman after me,
Oh my
which
goodness.
then became the nail in the coffin to move forward. She
Mhm.
ended up suing him, um, and I ended up suing civilly. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing. My ex sent me to therapy to work on myself as well, and
yeah,
that's where I found my voice. It's like
yeah.
it's like, "Thank you." Well, they do drive you so insane, and he would tell me, and this is a big red flag on a silver platter, "I don't have anything to work on, so if you have a problem with what I'm doing, you have to go to therapy to learn how to deal with it." Now, I had been with this man since I was 22 years old, so of course, I trusted him. And I thought, okay, so that makes sense. Yes, because I never had I think when you don't have your self-esteem, when you don't have any self-worth,
Hmm.
when you've been told all your life, what you have to say doesn't matter. I don't think like for me, I sure didn't think, oh, okay, I should demand of him to treat me better or whatever. But instead, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go to therapy and get better, whatever that means, be a better wife, because that was the issue. If I was a better wife, then we wouldn't have all these problems. And now I know if I would just be more quiet and
Mm.
and not
Docile and submissive. Yeah.
yes, and not set any boundaries with him and not expect him to do anything, then everything would be fine. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So that's when I started waking up was of course it took years and years of therapy, but I started waking up in there to the point where my kids were like, "Wow, you're really making a big difference. Therapy's really great for you," and etc.
Mm.
Because I used to be a yelly, screamy mom who was
Mm.
dysregulated and unsupported. So
Got it.
I was super angry all the time. It's amazing how I'm not an angry person anymore
That's a good thing for sure.
when I'm not actively being abused. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're out of those situations, the prosperity that you actually get, like not just financially, but for your soul. You're out of abuse, you're out
Yeah.
of this always having to stand guard, be timid, always walking on eggshells. Once you get
Yeah.
out of that, it's like, oh my gosh, a breath of fresh air. What does this
Yeah.
look like? And for some people, it's very, very challenging to go from
Yes.
being abused for 15, 20, 30 years, and then all
Hmm.
of a sudden you have your voice again. It's
Hmm.
uh it's like The Handmaid's Tale. If you've ever seen The Handmaid's Tale,
Yes.
when Jean
Yes.
finally escapes
Yeah.
Gilead, she loses her mind. She doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
And that's
Exactly.
kind of what happens. And this is why I highly recommend therapy. I went
Yes.
through 8+ years of therapy,
Hmm.
and I still get triggered, Laura. We talked about
Yeah.
this. But I mean, therapy is definitely essential in our healing and speaking up. And this is why, I help people publish
Hmm.
their stories,
Yeah.
write their stories, speak their stories,
Hmm.
craft your message. And I think that it's super important to do so because our stories are not just for us. Our
Yeah.
stories are to help other people. And Laura, this
Yeah.
is why you started a podcast.
Right, exactly. And I
Yeah.
get in my DMs all the time, people saying it's because of you that I feel like it's okay to talk about this, even if it's
Mhm.
just in my DM, even if it's just, seeing your videos, gives me hope that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was really embarrassed. I'm like 33 years. Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. But I have to say that telling people it was 33 years and I'm okay now. Like
Yeah.
I want you to know that you're going to be okay. So if you didn't last 33 years like I did, and I have found people who've lasted longer, but if you didn't last 33 years, you're going to be okay because we
Yeah.
can do it. It's so true when you come out and you're like, just making those little decisions when I'm doing coaching, just telling them, like, just even if it's something silly, like, where do you want to go for lunch? Because in the past, maybe you didn't have that choice. Like, what were some
Hmm.
choices that I just remember all the time him saying, like, what time do you want to leave to go, say, like, to the airport or whatever? Anytime he asked me what time I wanted to leave, that was one of our fights because it was always wrong. It was the wrong answer. But I like to be there. I didn't want to be like walking in the door and getting on the plane. Like that was stressing me out. And we have a
Yeah.
very busy airport. And so having these conversations, like, okay, whatever, we'll go whatever time you want to go. And now it's a pleasure. I leave whenever I want. I just
That's
go.
hilarious.
I don't worry about it. Oh, I'm at the airport too early. Well, that's fine. I'll just sit here and read or whatever. And those are the things that we have to remember to look at, right? Those small wins. Those small wins. When you were talking about the book, I did my journal as part of my book.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started looking through all my journals, I'm like, holy crap. So
Yeah.
he's been a narcissist this whole time, but I didn't know what a narcissist was. I didn't know what emotional abuse was. I grew up, I'm 58. So I grew up in a time where if you weren't being hit, it wasn't abuse.
It's a
So
plus. Yeah.
yeah, and so I just didn't know any better. And of course, it was very familiar from my family. My family's kind of toxic, so it was very familiar. And so it just kind of all transferred over. It all seemed the same. And one day, maybe I'll have somebody who feels safe in my life because I haven't had that yet.
You will, I promise
I
you. I
know. Well,
mean,
my kids and my cat. So,
yeah.
and I have beautiful friends. So, okay, who are the people that are coming to you when they're looking to write their story or anyway working with you, write their story or tell their story? Who are the people that
Yeah.
are coming
So,
to you?
so I run a for-profit and a nonprofit.
Okay.
So Unsilenced Voices is the nonprofit organization. The bulk of our programming, like I said, is in Sierra Leone. So we have sensitization programs. We help and work with the sex workers. We have a program called Matilda's program, one of the
Okay.
first young ladies that we enrolled through Vocational Training Center. Uh, she was spunky and had this amazing personality, and the teachers used to WhatsApp me like, I can't handle her. But she was awesome. And unfortunately, we didn't know that she was HIV positive. And by the
Um,
time we found out, she was in her village with full-blown AIDS and she had passed
mm,
away. So we actually named our vocational training
mhm.
program, Matilda's program, after her. So
Yeah.
we work with hundreds now of young girls who have been either trafficked to the country,
Hmm.
sexually abused, many of them, I mean, starting at young, young,
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
A lot of our girls who are still children, 11, 12 years old, have children. And then domestic violence. There's most every one of these young ladies have experienced domestic violence, whether from their partners, their spouse, sexual abuse. I mean, you name it, all kinds of things. So we work with a lot of the sex workers there, getting them off the
Okay.
streets, encouraging them. We do malnutrition programs. At the
Mm.
time of this recording, we're working with the U.S. Peace Corps to help bring nutrition to young babies who are
Mhm.
literally starving to death in Sierra
Yeah.
Leone. So we do
Yeah.
that. We have a savings box program in two of the villages that we help support,
Oh.
Salahun and Tobu Village, a couple years ago. So this was 2021 or 22. I think it might have been
Hmm.
22. We filmed a TV show with the Fixers on BYU, and we are
Hmm.
season 4, episode 2 of
Oh,
that. We
awesome.
built a cassava processing facility for one of the villages that we support. So we do a lot of agricultural programs as well.
Hmm.
So there's a lot that we do,
Yeah.
all focused on empowering survivors and
Amazing.
and really kind of moving past the abuse and being self-sufficient, prosperity, right? So then I have the for-profit, and the
Hmm.
for-profit right now we help people in three different ways. One is one-on-one coaching, which I only take on about 4 or 5 one-on-one clients per quarter because it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
Help you take your story, publish your story, get on stages. We're really good at getting massive exposure. So ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. This Friday, which is going to be like 30 Fridays ago now.
Right.
But I'll be on Channel 8, which is NBC. Just was on Fox 13 for our book
Awesome.
collaboration. So one-on-one is awesome. We teach Legacy Camp, which is a 12-week group coaching program to
Hmm.
help people tell their stories through book publishing, speaking, and creating courses. And then we have a book collaboration project called Breaking the Silence.
Hmm.
This is where a lot of survivors want to tell their stories,
Yeah.
whether you're a survivor of sexual violence, disease, depression, anxiety, domestic violence, human trafficking. This is where a lot of these individuals, both men and women, come and tell their stories of how they
Hmm.
overcame adversity and then use their stories to create businesses, create awareness, whatever that looks like. And
Wow.
we have 1 to 2 of these books published every single year, up to 20 authors in each book.
I love collaborative books. I'm in one right now. And
Yeah,
I've
that's
I've done
awesome.
mul I've done multiple ones and I think they're a lot of fun. It's a great way to like get your feet wet, to try
Yeah,
out
definitely. Mhm.
writing your story. I've had some that are really short, that you have to do really short chapters and the ones that are longer. And it's great to take that, even though I've written a book, it's different when you just have to tell it all in a chapter.
Yeah.
And that's been a really great way to get your feet wet and tell your story. I love that. So I've done a few of those. So tell me about why you guys are in Sierra Leone. How did you end
Yeah.
up there?
A lot of people ask me that question. And let's see, back in 2016, I was a bartender, literally pouring Jack and Cokes. And I felt this calling from God. After I performed
Mhm.
my play, I was like, I'm supposed to start a nonprofit. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have the background for this. So while I'm pouring a drink, I'm like, hey, Jeff, I think I want to start a nonprofit. Okay, cool, Michelle, grab me my beer. Um, so lo and behold, I ended up, coming up with this idea, and people at the bar rail helped me with the name and all kinds of things. And then this Ghanaian doctor came into my bar and said,
Oh.
I love your idea. Why don't you go to my home country and see what you can do? And that's what I did. I packed my bags and I flew to Ghana.
Wow.
Prior to me starting Unsilenced Voices, I was volunteering for an organization that worked in Sierra Leone. So I had a heart for Sierra Leone. I went on a mission trip to Sierra Leone in 2016. So after we started UV, I was like, I want to make sure to impact Sierra Leone. And we expanded from Ghana to then Sierra Leone. And then Rwanda contacted us in 2020, and we worked with two different
Wow.
organizations in Rwanda for a couple of years. And then we published a curriculum in the US called Graced for Prosperity that a lot of organizations can utilize to help and rehabilitate survivors back into society. We teach a lot about financial literacy. We
Hmm.
are non secular, however, we do stand firm in Christian values and beliefs. So
Right.
there is a Christian spin to the
Hmm.
curriculum.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so that's kind of how. I mean, it was just
Wow.
God opening the doors. You know what's funny, Laura? When I was young, well
Mhm.
before I found God, I used to have dreams about me surrounded by a bunch of African children,
Oh, how
and I
funny.
didn't know what that was.
Right. Yeah.
And looking back now, I understand that that He is using me to help other people speak up.
Yeah. I feel like the things that are inside of us are going to come out no matter what, like that
Yeah.
I'm doing this kind of work. I've always loved helping women. I've always loved helping build women up and encourage them and all this stuff. Like I've done that in church, I've done that in my life. And it's like it's not unusual that this is what I'm doing and that in my coaching groups and everything that I'm talking to women to help build them up. And I just sort of forgot about myself in there for a few
Mm,
years, but
yeah.
that I'm doing this. It's not a surprise that you had this dream at some point and it's still in there.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting. And I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, then know
Mhm.
your story matters and what it is that you've gone through matters. Oftentimes, people pop their collar and say there's nothing wrong. And
Yeah,
then there's also the other side where they admit that there's something wrong, but they don't think that it's good enough to do anything with. I
right.
will tell you, if you stay silent, you are actually allowing other people to continue enduring things because you are now silent.
Yes. Yes.
And what I mean by that is if you don't speak up, then they don't know how to get out. Because,
Yes.
Laura, you're going to impact people differently than
Hmm.
I'm going to impact people. At the
Yes.
time of this recording, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Another
Right.
10 years, there's going to be 16 billion people.
Yeah.
So there's so many individuals. Not everybody's going to resonate with you or me. So
Yeah.
it's up to you as the audience members to
Hmm.
speak up, to tell your story, to really not shy away from what you've experienced. Be authentic, be trustworthy, be honest, be
Yes.
transparent, especially from
Yes.
stage.
Yeah. It's you're one story away from changing somebody's life. Just
Mm-hmm.
you sharing your story. You just never know how it's going to impact. I really started out just being petty and talking about my story. And then it kind of, changed into all that it is now. And I love when I get the feedback. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I can move forward and I feel better and all those things. And that to me is encouraging because I forget because I feel like I'm talking into the void, but but all those things. I was going to ask you about your healing journey. I know you said you did therapy. Give me some ideas of what you've done and maybe that would be helpful for others.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is writing therapy, I truly believe is the
Mhm.
best form of healing,
Yeah.
especially for me. It may not be for everybody, but for
Mhm.
me, it definitely was. When I wrote my play and
Mhm.
started rehearsing my play, literally beating myself up on stage, this was a solo play. I played over 14 different characters, including my abuser. So I
Yeah.
literally had a rape scene that I did in this
Okay.
solo play.
Wow. Interesting.
So, rehearsing this 65 minutes of dialogue, rehearsing this day in and day out, I became comfortable with the ick. Like I started
Yeah.
to really, okay, this happened, but it doesn't have to define me. So going through this all the time was the first stage in that healing process. A lot of other people use movement
Yeah.
as healing,
Yeah.
music as healing. For me, it was definitely writing and then having to repetitively perform this, and then speaking up. when I started speaking, I remember I went Facebook Live before Facebook Live was cool. So this was pre-COVID. This was well before, all the Zooms and the Zoom hopping and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So I hit live on Facebook and I was trembling. I was sweating in places I didn't think could sweat. And I just started saying my story. And,
That's awesome.
I thought worst case scenario, like people are going to judge me. People are going to say
Yeah.
this. Other people might not believe me, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
What came was mostly,
Yeah.
what came was people supporting me and supportive comments and encouragement. Just like you, Laura, I'm so happy that you spoke up. Now I have the courage to speak up, or now I
Yeah.
can leave this abusive situation and things
Right.
like that. So that gave me the confidence to continue moving
Hmm.
forward. And there's always going to be naysayers. Let me tell you
Always.
what, I published my first book and there's a negative comment. There's probably multiple by now
Yeah.
about like, I can't believe she stayed and did this and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm like, you
I
know,
know. I have those too, and I'm just like, whatever. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't worry about it. I mean, it's better than the book you didn't write. That's what I say to people.
I like that. I'm going to steal that one, Laura.
Go ahead. It's your new tagline for your author
Oh my
coaching.
gosh. Oh my gosh. I think it might be a little too harsh, but I definitely like that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's what I usually think because I just tell people, sometimes when people are like, oh, whatever, no big deal, I'm just like, it's better than what you've done. Like, you haven't done anything. You're sitting over here criticizing me. Like, I don't say that to people I like, I say that to people that are like, why are you talking to me like that? And most of the time, it's like, I just let it roll off
Roll
my
off your
back
back.
because
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. I know what I'm supposed to do. And then did you find this, when you were telling your story, of course, you're going to have the naysayers. This was surprising to me. I didn't know I would have naysayers. I didn't know that people wouldn't be supportive. I was so sheltered or something. I don't know. I was in abuse for 33 years. So I really didn't know. I just thought I'm going to tell my story and people are going to believe me and they're going to support me and they're just going to walk alongside me, whatever that means. And I had people who were like, "Are you sure? He seems like such a nice guy. Did that
Mhm.
really happen?" And
And
I
then the
lost
victim blaming, right?
yeah,
That's what
and
you
I
said you
lost
just said.
friends. I
Hmm.
lost friends who
Yeah.
were like, "I don't and you shouldn't talk about it. Just forgive him, move on." The forgive him and move on thing was like to me was really damaging because yes, we can forgive, but man, don't
You do
don't
not forget.
like, hey, can I have a minute? Like it just happened. Not
Hmm.
to mention being re-victimized once I figured out like what he was doing, all the cheating and all the lies. I started to unravel it all and I was like re-victimized all over again and starting to understand that. And for people saying like just forgive him, move on, don't talk about it. It was weird to me. I didn't understand that. What did you find as far as like people around you and supportive wise?
Um, so this is I think a two-phase answer. So the
Okay.
first one is when you're in the midst of abuse.
Yeah.
I'm talking to those individuals that have friends who are in abusive situations that
Yeah.
tell their friends, "Hey, get out. We see this. You need to leave."
Yeah.
Constantly, you're telling them. And
Yeah.
eventually, there's a lot of those friends who are like, they're not listening. They close their doors. So
Hmm.
if you're out there and you're hearing this and you have
Yeah.
friends experiencing this, keep your door open because
Yes.
eventually they're going
Yes.
to have the strength to leave and they're going to need you then.
Yes.
They're not going to listen to you right away. And that's what it is. This is where I lost a lot of friends is a
Yeah.
lot of my friends saw this. I mean, I used to cover bruises up. I used to
Right.
wear hats all the time, turtlenecks, long sleeve shirts in the
Hmm.
middle of summer in California. It's
Yeah.
90-degree weather outside. I fall a lot. I used to lie, right? But I had bruises all over
Hmm.
me. And all of my friends could see this.
Hmm.
And they kept telling me, "Why are you doing this? You need to leave. He's doing, oh no, he's not doing anything, right?" I
Right.
would lie.
Right.
But eventually I reached a point where I had the strength, the courage to break free. And at that moment, oftentimes those doors were closed and they were closed
Yeah.
tight. So I lost friends then. Now, looking back afterwards,
Yeah.
you will have the naysayers, and you will have people who don't support you.
Yeah.
But those who do support you, grip onto those people
Hmm.
because you want to surround yourself with individuals who uplift you, who support you, So I'm talking to survivors now, right?
Mhm.
So if you escape and the your Uncle Joe or your Aunt Sue or your neighbor down the street telling you that, oh, he was such a good guy or she was such a good girl, you don't want to say any of this. Keep it all in the
Mhm.
family. Nobody needs to know.
Yeah.
They don't need to know. You don't need
Right.
to know them, right?
Right. Right.
So move on, find people who are more
Yes.
supportive of you to help you speak the truth, because it is only through, in my opinion, speaking and writing that
Yeah.
we really can change the dynamic of how the society is ran. I mean, I do a lot of work in Africa and especially in Sierra Leone and Ghana. When abuse happens, they think of it as a family matter and they
Okay.
don't want you to go around talking about the abuse. And
Mm.
I'm kind of a disruptor. So going into Sierra Leone, I'm like, no, ladies, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did was we started having the sensitization meetings, not just with women, but men there too. And
Yeah.
at first it was like this fight, and I didn't speak the language. So I just lots of loud talking, both
Yeah.
sides. Eventually, it was like, oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. It's a cultural thing,
Oh, okay.
right? So there's
Right.
that aspect as well. But be supportive. Find people who are supportive
Yeah.
of who you are. There's organizations. There's social media. There's so much now. We are a digital economy,
Yeah.
global digital economy. You can
Yeah.
find somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, that and you can't find them unless you're talking about it somehow. Look, you don't have to do a podcast, you don't have to go live on Facebook, you don't have to do any of those things. But I just remember even talking to certain friends who were like, "Oh, okay." Like you could tell they weren't comfortable or they didn't want to talk about it or they didn't know how to process it. So those weren't my people. Those
Yeah.
weren't the people I was
Mhm.
going to have those conversations with. I have other friends who are like, "Hey, my first marriage was abusive. I'm willing to talk about everything."
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you and thank God for the friends who said, "You are going to be okay." Like, where I couldn't even get out of bed, I couldn't stop crying, I couldn't function as a human, even though I was happy I left. Of course, you're still gonna grieve, and then when I
Yeah.
started being re-victimized with everything he had done and everything he was doing currently, it was so hard, and, thank God for my friends who were like, "You're gonna be okay. You're
Mhm.
it may not feel like it, but you're gonna be okay." And so that's what we have to tell people every day is
Yeah.
you will be okay. That is for sure. Well, that seems like a good place to stop, Michelle.
Okay. I love that. I do want to add one thing,
Yes, I
right?
was gonna say
The
yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so the you'll be okay. I always end podcast interviews the same way.
Okay.
So if you've listened to me in a different podcast, you're gonna hear this again. But I truly believe that you have to keep going. And there's a
Yeah.
movie called Finding Nemo, and in that movie,
Mhm.
there's a fish named Dory, and
Yes.
Dory is kind of an airhead, and Dory forgets things after 10 seconds, forgets where
Mhm.
she's going, forgets what she's
Yes.
doing. But the one thing she sings to herself is just keep swimming. Just keep
Yes.
swimming. Just keep swimming. I'm not musically inclined, so I'm not actually going to sing this for you. However, if you're out there, if you feel trapped, if you are stuck, if you've escaped and you're still in this turmoil of why didn't it work, I want you to know to just keep swimming. Keep putting one
Yes.
foot in front of the other. Don't give up. Do
Yeah.
not give up because it will get better. I promise you that.
I love that. It's so true. You have to keep going. I always say if you're walking through hell, keep going.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Definitely
Right.
keep going. Yes,
No, I love it. Yes, just keep swimming. Yeah, it's better. It keeps getting better for sure.
it does. It does. And if you're interested, of course, in sharing your story even more or learning
Yeah.
more about unsilenced voices, please go to michellejewsbury.com, Michelle with two L's and an E, and
Mhm.
Jewsbury is JEWSBURY.com. You can also go to unsilencedvoices.org to find more information about the organization.
And we'll put everything in the show notes in case anyone wants to connect with you. So
Perfect.
thank you so much for being
Thanks, Laura.
here. And guys, yes, please connect with Michelle. And if anything resonated with you today, please share it and push all the buttons on Apple and Spotify so that podcast land knows you love us. You got to hit those stars so they'll let us keep doing this work. Michelle, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Laura.